Good kids don't happen by accident. They're shaped by what we expect, what we allow, and what we choose to correct. Welcome to Good Kids Don't Happen by Accident, the podcast about raising accountable kids in a world full of excuses. I'm your host, Coach Steve. Today, I want to talk about something that every loving parent does. I've done it my whole life and I still do. We praise our children. We tell them they're smart. We tell them they're talented. We even tell them they're gifted. And every one of those compliments comes from a place of love. But today I want to ask a question. What if some of our best compliments have unintended consequences? Over the years, I saw something happen over and over again in my classroom. The kids who were praised for being smart often became the very kids who were afraid to struggle. Let me tell you a story about one of them. I knew this little kid since kindergarten. First grade, he was so smart they identified him as gifted, and he truly was. Everything came easy to him. School was never difficult at all. By the time he got to sixth grade, everybody in the school knew him as the smart kid. So, I did what every good teacher does. I challenged this kid. I gave him harder work and I pushed him. And for the first time in his life, he finally struggled. It wasn't that he couldn't learn the math. It was that he couldn't stand not getting it right immediately. This kid spent years believing that smart people know the answer. So when he didn't, something changed. He started avoiding difficult problems. He stopped volunteering as he often did. Then he even became hesitant to try unless he knew he would succeed. And then after watching him, it hit me. This kid's not afraid of math. He was afraid of no longer looking smart. It's that fixed mindset that I talked about in a previous episode. Sadly, this kid had one. Then he also had that label, gifted. The thought that he didn't know something was torturing him. It quietly became a burden. Instead of him chasing challenges and embracing them, he started protecting his reputation. So that's when he and I sat down and had a talk. I said, look, we've been talking all year in my class about a growth mindset. You really have to start focusing on the power of yet. And I reminded him daily, struggling isn't proof that he's not smart. Struggling was proof that he's actually finally learning something new. Little by little, he stopped protecting the label, and he started embracing the challenge. By the end of the year, this kid wasn't afraid to fail anymore because he finally understood something that I hope every child will learn. Success isn't about already knowing something. It's about being willing to grow and not being afraid to fail. A few years later, I had another kid taught me the same lesson, but in a really different way. This time, it wasn't in my classroom at school. It was in my martial arts class. It was in the dojo. I started teaching this young man when he was 14 years old. He was on the autism spectrum, and his mom was hoping the karate class would help him. It was the same as the previous student. This kid was great at academics and did really, really well at his regular school. He was always praised for being smart and talented. But remembering techniques, learning the forms, that was really difficult for him. Getting his body to move the way he wanted it to wasn't really easy. Things that came naturally to many of the other students, they were really challenging for him. He wanted to quit after the first class because he was really struggling. I said, hey, give it a few more classes before you make that decision. And that night, I gave him and his mom the same talk I gave the previous kid about growth mindset and how struggle is good. And that talk was like magic with this kid. But there was one thing about this kid I will never forget as long as I live. He showed up every single class. Week after week, he watched other kids that started after him earn green belts, brown belts, eventually black belts. And you know what this kid never did? He never complained. Not once. He simply showed up every week and he tried again. And he improved a little bit every week. one class, one technique at a time, one small victory after another. And every time I watched him bow onto the dojo floor, I was reminded success isn't measured by how quickly we arrive, but by whether we refuse to quit. Today, this kid's 25 years old, and in just a few months, he's finally testing for his black belt. Not because he was the most talented student I ever taught, but he may have been the most persistent. And honestly, this kid's an inspiration to me and everybody else in that dojo. Now, those two students couldn't have been more different. There was one that had every natural advantage a kid could have, and the other, he had to fight for every inch of progress. Yet both of them taught me exactly the same lesson. Talent might open the door, but perseverance is what carries you through it. And that's what I call the praise trap. Sometimes, without realizing it, we praise children for things they can't control. Oh, honey, you're so smart. You're so talented. You're so good at that. And the words sound wonderful, and yes, they are nice compliments. But they can accidentally convince children that their value comes from always being smart, always being talented and the best. And then one day, life gets hard. Suddenly they realize they aren't the best anymore. There's always going to be somebody faster, smarter, and stronger out there. And instead of thinking, I can learn this, they start thinking something terrible. What if everyone finds out I'm not as smart as they thought I was? Well, what should parents praise instead? We should praise what children can control. Instead of always just saying you're smart, try saying, honey, I love how hard you worked at this. Oh, that practice is paying off. I love how you didn't give up. Instead of always praising the outcome, praise their effort, their perseverance, their honesty, their kindness. Praise your kids' courage to keep trying and not giving up, because those are the qualities that carry children through life. There's one thought I'd like to leave you with today. When your child's 30 years old, what voice do you hope they hear in their head when they talk to themselves? Because one day, your voice will become their inner voice. So let's make sure we're giving them something worth repeating. Children become what we celebrate. So praise generously, but praise wisely. Because good kids don't happen by accident. They're built through expectations, encouragement, accountability, and adults who never stop believing in who they can become. Until next time, keep believing in your kids because they're still becoming. Take care.